Welcome to Tales of Ted DeGrazia, a Big Blend radio podcast covering the art, life, and career of Southwest artist Ted DeGrazia, as well as the current events and exhibits happening at DeGrazia Gallery in the Sun. It's a 10-acre National Historic Landmark located in Tucson, Arizona. Welcome, everyone. It is the fourth Sunday, and that means we get to chat with Lance Laber, the Tucson dude, who is the executive director of the DeGrazia Gallery in the Sun in Tucson, Arizona. This is a beautiful 10-acre National Historic site that you want to go to that really features the art of acclaimed Southwest artist Ted DeGrazia, or Ettore DeGrazia. And there's permanent exhibitions, but then there's also rotating ones. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because they have two brand new exhibits, plus the Way of the Cross, which is an annual exhibit for the Lent. And if Lance doesn't have that happen, most of Tucson will come banging on his door and yell at him. And he doesn't like that and doesn't want that. Plus, we're going to touch on the Little Gallery, which has new, different artists coming in all the time through spring, which is really cool to go and see. And the Little Gallery was once Ted DeGrazia's gallery as well. Ted DeGrazia was known as one of the most reproduced artists in the world. Do you think he still is, Lance? Welcome back. How are you?
Oh, yeah, I think he is. Sure.
Yeah. Don't mess with him.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you back. Nancy and I are sorry we didn't get to see you last time we were in Tucson. You know, when you're on the road, detours happen. But the good thing is all things lead back to Tucson, and we'll be back soon. But we did think of you and Ted DeGrazia because, as I said, we ended up on a detour going back. I don't know how. Anyway, we went on this wild detour all over Arizona to New Mexico and to Texas, and we were just so close to Morenci, and we just the timing, just didn't work. But we should just notice that Morenci was a big part of his life, right? That's where he did his first drawing.
Actually, that's where he was born.
Yeah, in the mine area, right? In a mining camp.
Yeah. Morenci was a mining camp, and he lived in the little town, and eventually the mine swallowed up the town. They had to move the town. The main town is part of the pit now. So, wow. Yeah, that's where he was from.
And they've got like a road named after him, I think, and so they do honor him in Morenci, which is out in the south.
There's actually there's a park there. There's a park that they named after him. Few things around town. Yeah, they haven't forgotten him.
That's awesome. We'll have to try and go there on our way back through to from Texas through Tucson this year. But Morenci, everyone's in southeast Arizona, and it's a beautiful part of the country. It really is. So that's where Ted DeGrazia was born, and then of course moved out to Tucson. And we talk about him on every fourth Sunday here on Big Blend Radio. But today's going to be interesting because there's new exhibits start on January 31st. Before we get to that, just a shout out to Bisbee, because didn't he live in Bisbee for a while? And now there is an exhibit over in Bisbee, Arizona, also in the southeast part of Arizona as well. It's at the Bisbee Mining and Historical Museum and the Muheim Heritage House. This goes through May 26, 2025. So, didn't he live there? And this is an exhibit showing his work of Bisbee?
Yeah, he got married in the early 30s to a woman named Alexandra Dimas. And her father, they were a prominent family in Arizona, and the father owned all the movie theaters in Bisbee. There was the Lyric Theater, and there was the Orpheum, but it was the Lyric Theater that he made DeGrazia the manager. And he also owned the Fox Theater in Tucson, so they were quite a well-known family. Anyway, they moved to Bisbee in, I believe, in 1932, and they had their children. The firstborn was born in Tucson. They went to Tucson for the delivery, and then the other two kids were born in Bisbee. And he was there till, I believe, 1942. He was the manager of the Lyric Theater, but his father-in-law fired him
Oh,
because he got caught giving free tickets to the little kids.
oh,
Oh,
So
that's
oh.
then he moved back to Tucson. He built his first gallery in the middle of town, and that was there until 1988. But he left that gallery around 49 when he bought the 10 acres up in the Catalina foothills to build his main gallery up there.
now. Did
Hmm.
So
did
anyway,
we
he
meet?
was in Bisbee.
Yeah, he was. So everyone, you can go see that art, and it's really it's like the downtown street scenes from the 40s when he was there,
Well,
right?
what it is exactly is the DeGrazia did a lot of mining paintings, and he did a lot of stuff like that in Bisbee. You know, Bisbee's a huge mining town, the Copper Queen mine, and although it's not active anymore, they shut it down years ago. But he all of the paintings that he did in Bisbee are on display in the mining museum and in the Muheim House, the historic Muheim House.
Mm.
Hmm.
Now, Alexandra, his wife at the time, is that the wife that we met at the gallery years ago, like maybe 10 years
No,
ago? Okay.
no,
Okay.
no. He only had two wives. He had Alexandra Dimas, and then they were divorced. They weren't married all that long. They were married long enough to
Oh,
have three kids, and I think she was kind of, well, I don't know. She was tired of him, I guess. Then he married Marion
okay.
DeGrazia, Marion
Hmm.
Sherritt. So she was the founder, and she's been dead 22 or 23 years.
Mm,
So you probably met Carol Locus,
I think
who
so.
was the mother of Domingo,
That's it. Okay.
Hmm.
DeGrazia's youngest son.
Okay. 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 That's who it is. Okay. All right. She's sweet. I remember her, little sweet lady.
Hmm.
Yeah, oh yeah,
So
very nice lady.
yeah, very, very sweet. Alexandra, though, this ties to the exhibit coming up at the gallery, which I think people are going to love and find fascinating. And this goes to when DeGrazia and Alexandra, right? The two of them went to Mexico City and how he, ended up working, well, not working, but was like an apprentice to Diego. Like he was being tutored by him. And from what I was reading through what Alexandra had written, that no money exchanged hands, but this was quite an exciting thing for Ted DeGrazia to be able to be an apprentice with him.
Absolutely. I mean, Diego Rivera was big time.
Yeah.
And that was the whole reason they went down to
Hmm.
Mexico City, was to try to make contact with Diego Rivera. And DeGrazia bribed the security guard like with $5 to get in, and they let him in. And he met Rivera, and they collaborated on his mural
Wow.
for a month or two, and then. Rivera and Jose Orozco sponsored DeGrazia his show, a one-man show at the Palace of Fine Art in Mexico City. So
Ooh, sweet.
they did a lot for him. They did a lot for him to expand his base. But when he came back to Tucson, when he left Mexico and came back to Tucson, um, his success in Mexico didn't translate. Nobody cared. Nobody wanted to buy his art in America.
Hmm.
So that's kind of why he had this guy build his own gallery, because he wasn't getting any cooperation from the
Hmm.
art community.
It's
Hmm.
interesting. So he bribes the security guard with $5 or something, but not a movie ticket. Because that part wasn't
No,
happening
no
yet.
movie tickets.
No,
Yeah, no,
no
that was
movie
too late.
ticket. Yeah, but when, going to Mexico, isn't that where they honeymooned too? Alexandra and him also honeymooned down there?
They were down in the jungles of Mexico, yeah, but Yeah, they
Oh, that's
traveled
definitely.
all down. They traveled in Guatemala. They traveled in
Mm,
Mexico. They were all
Mm.
over.
cool.
And they got to meet Frida Kahlo too, I think, when they were there.
They did.
Like,
They did. She showed up with dinner one night for
Mm,
Diego. So yeah, he met her too.
wow, that's cool. She was
hmm
really interesting. We watched a biography on her, and I don't think I even got to finish it, but when she was in San Francisco when Diego went there, and how things were changing, and how, how the Americanization, you know what I mean? How it was so different from Mexico, and how she was trying to find herself as a woman there. It changed her and it changed him. And it's just a very fascinating. I think it was on a PBS thing. If people get a chance to watch it, it was just really interesting to see how when they moved over, and I was like, oh, I want to watch this because it's interesting how Ted goes over and how that influenced him. So coming over to the States, how that I think it was difficult for Diego at first too because of his art and because he was outspoken. In America, it was very hush hush at that point. You don't say, hey, you're doing something wrong. And he really helped in regards to showing how the workers were treated. So that was quite hush hush, I think, at that point. But San Francisco was more open to that kind of thing. And then I know they were in New York City too. And so I wonder about Ted DeGrazia at that time frame, if they met up in the States at all, because I know Ted
I honestly,
traveled
I don't.
too, right?
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, but I don't know if they did or not.
Me
It's
neither.
possible, but I don't
I
know.
can't remember what year it was, but that's such a cool biography. I encourage people to watch it. Right now on display, so these are Ted DeGrazia in the studio of Diego Rivera, this exhibit, which is you have 13 works from that. So is that of him?
Yeah,
Hmm.
all these paintings were done really early in the 30s and the 40s, and a lot of them were inspired by some of Diego Rivera's works. They were
Yeah.
peasants and very. It was very dark, very sad work. That was one of DeGrazia's problems, was that people didn't want to buy such dark
mm,
work. People being shot on the firing squad, and the Mexican Revolution. It was a lot of suffering, and DeGrazia, documented it, but nobody wanted to buy it.
You know,
hmm
what's interesting about that in looking at his work of Bisbee, that time frame, you can see it's different than once he got settled in his studio. It's just like the the brushstrokes literally are thicker. It seems like everything is,
Well, I mean,
yeah,
he changed the way he painted. He went from painting with a brush to painting with a palette knife,
yeah.
yeah,
and he pretty
that's
much stuck with that for the rest of his career. And
Huh.
anyway,
I
yeah,
wonder
he
what
he
got,
uh, he he started painting differently.
and
Well, I think it was
Nancy,
more of a challenge.
yeah,
it
Nancy,
is.
you've done
It's
that, right? You,
yeah, and it's definitely when you first try it, you look like a 2-year-old did the painting, but eventually
Well,
you get
you
it
want
under
to.
control. You do get some
Yeah,
control.
you're gonna tear the canvas with the knife.
Yeah,
You're gonna wrap your knuckles on the canvas.
yeah.
So, it takes a little while to
hmm
really get a handle on that. And he got very good at it. He was very
Yeah.
good with a palette knife.
And
So,
then there are some palette knives that are almost completely flat. The good ones that are easier to use have like a little 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch step up. Then you get to the handle.
right,
So you're not
right.
racking your knuckles across the canvas all the time. But some of the earlier ones, it's like a butter knife, and you're like, well, this sucks.
yeah.
Yeah,
So it's,
well, and I think that's what he was using. He was
mm,
using just a flat. So
mm,
anyway, he learned. He learned.
yeah.
Wow. How
Mm,
interesting. So this is very cool to just kind of see this journey, right? Of Bisbee, Mexico, and then, at that point too, he gets settled. He builds what is now the gallery, right? That what you have where people come out to they see the whole massive gallery part. There's the Mission and the Sun, the little gallery where there's, different artists during the winter and early spring. And we can say early spring in Arizona because it is versus if you're in upstate or up in, not upstate, but up in the Midwest. But what's interesting to me, talking about him being the most reproduced artist in the world, when did he catch on to doing that reproductive art? Was it before he built the actual, the gallery and studio that you have now, that's the museum, or was that beforehand when he started, he realized he was working a lot, right? And he was very prolific and he loved it, but he realized I think he realized he would be able to get to the masses that way.
Yeah. Also, he had to have a little money to do that. So, it took a little while to where he started making some money, and then he was able to make reproductions and sell that stuff. But I'm pretty sure that it was after like 1952.
Okay, and that's how he got into
in the later 50s, around Los Niños time.
Okay, and then the Los Niños, when that gift card, yeah, because I think that kind of showed him when he did the card for UNICEF, that now people had something around. I mean, all over. It was not just this country. This card went everywhere, and maybe that kind of sparked that. Hey, my art can go everywhere.
Yeah. Internationally, that really put him on the map, and so people from all over the world started coming to visit him. People from Japan and Europe and Germany and everywhere.
So that and Arizona highways, I think, was a big deal too for him.
That's another thing that helped him a lot. Yes.
Yeah, Arizona highways.
There was people all over the country that were subscribing to Arizona Highways. That was a very popular magazine all over the country.
Oh, it's a huge magazine. Yeah. Huge.
So he was in 70 or 80 copies. They put him on the cover. They put him on the inside.
Amazing. And also, I know the exhibit that just closed, you closed off the Fuller Fabrics one out in New York City, and that was in the 50s, right? When he started doing the art for fabric.
Yes.
That is so cool. Yes. Man, I really, really am mad that we didn't get to see that, because that, I have a thing about textile art, and I know a lot of people do. I'm not the only one who gets into that, because it's just so neat. And it was it was like a style of the times. And I can see people wearing that now, really, because it's kind of how fashion circulates. And I just know from our interviews that's one of the most popular things we've done, Yeah.
It really is. That's not coming down till Thursday. So I'll take some pictures and send them to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Because that,
you're welcome.
Have you gotten a lot of feedback from that specific exhibit?
People like it. I mean, it's, nothing, it's kind of interesting, it's people didn't really necessarily understand that he did that. And they sold literally hundreds of thousands of square yards of this stuff, his textiles. So yeah, it was just a unique thing that not everybody was aware of.
Wow.
I think, it goes back to the days when they used to have wall hangings that were fabric. We don't see that so much anymore, but back then, I think it's like the mid-30s, mid-40s, where wall hangings became really popular. And people would have tapestries, but then they start putting them under glass. But there was a section of time where just the fabric art on its own, hanging on a wall, was a showpiece. And it was short-lived, but it still happened. And I think he hit that square of timing where people were into it. It's just like, and his work is something that would brighten any place. It brightens things up.
Well, It is, but I mean, what they did was they made skirts and they made dresses and they made,
Yeah.
they made clothes that people went nuts over. So anyway,
Wow.
I made a living in what country were we in? Lisa and I would paint. South Africa was painting on skirts.
Yeah.
And I
that's what he was doing.
Yeah, I made wrap around skirts because they fit almost any size. And so there's my rack of skirts, and I put them all on a kind of a light beige or off-white textured background fabric, and painted whatever the person wanted on their skirt. It was great fun.
Doing like little floral kind of hippie things, man. It was hippy dippy. It was hippy dippy. Well, everything with Nancy's hippy dippy,
Yeah.
So, it's all good. Louise Serpa, this is so interesting. Louise Serpa, I mean, she's famous too as a photographer. In Arizona.
Louise Serpa was a world-renowned rodeo photographer.
I love it.
She was kind of a crazy lady. She'd get in the rodeo in the arena and get knocked over by horses and I know she broke things, but anyway, her and DeGrazia were close friends, and she showed up and did a photo shoot of DeGrazia. She took pictures of him, of his hands. DeGrazia was so photogenic. He was really a photogenic guy. And she took beautiful photos of him and of the gallery. And so those are going up. I think everybody's going to enjoy that. It's going to be a very, very interesting show. We've actually done it one other time many, many years ago. So people have not seen these in a long, long time.
I think she was kind of a forerunner in female photography. There just wasn't that many. And to get out in the middle of a rodeo.
There was only one female rodeo photographer that I know of, and that was her.
Yeah. It's quite different.
Well, you have the movement. You have to know horses to do it. You do. You have to know horses and people. I was going to say for everyone, all these new exhibits we're talking about, Louise Serpa, her portraits of Ted DeGrazia, also the ones of him at the studio at Diego Rivera. All these exhibits open up January 31st, the evening of January 31st, and run through September 3rd, 2025. So you got time, but January 31st, you can be there. Are you having a reception with your whiskey, or is the whiskey gone? Did we miss out on the whiskey?
No.
Dang.
No, I still got whiskey for you.
Thank you.
Every time we want to sell it, we have to get a temporary liquor license. So it's the new year, and I have 10 days in the year to get rid of it. I think we got probably 100 bottles left, so there's still whiskey. Just got to pick the right weekend and the right day to do it.
Okay, so everybody
like a big event.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's a big event when we get there. Have no detours.
Right.
The detours are not allowed. I mean, we're still following that story of his connection with Cabeza de Vaca, and went to Galveston. We're disappointed at the little plaque that we found, and we did do a big detour to get there. And now I really want to go to Houston, and that got detoured too. Listen, last year was, 4 hurricanes we went through. That's insane, to get through and a lot of detours. And for those that are new listening, Nancy and I travel full time, but we're based in Tucson. And we follow, Ted DeGrazia has footprints all across the Southwest and across the country. And he painted this amazing series of, Cabeza de Vaca, their expedition, and they landed, at Galveston, and basically all these guys were stuck in the desert and died of. I mean, it's crazy, this story. And Cabeza de Vaca is looked at as the very first travel writer of Texas. So I am absolutely enamored by this guy and his story, and I get it. I get, you know, how Ted DeGrazia was fascinated with him and, telling the story. And then, he's got, uh, I'm going to get it right. Padre Kino, not Father Font, right? Padre Kino. He's
Mhm.
got a
Right,
fascination
right.
with his story, and he's even written books on him. So I think he always kind of put himself in the positions of these people of the Southwest that, they're a huge part of the history of the Southwest. So, anyway, we got detoured. We were going to go to Houston and and my thing was to get out to the botanical gardens because there's this huge sculpture of Cabeza de Vaca, which is what he deserves. He deserves more than a plaque on the ground going, he was here. Like, I mean, come on now. Sorry. I'm still mad at it. I'm still really mad
Okay.
because, well, everyone should go to the gallery. Then you'll see what I'm talking about and look up that story because, I mean, that wasn't like 200 people, Lance, I think, that were just, were ultimate survival, right?
Cabeza
And
de Vaca, and that
yeah,
was
with
like
them,
700 men.
700 men.
There was
That's
a whole
insane.
bunch of them. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, man.
And they all
They,
died.
Mhm.
Happy New Year, y'all. But,
Nice,
Right.
Lisa.
I know, but I mean, the
All
story
right.
it's insane. No, but I don't know who talks about it. We don't hear
Mm.
about it as much. And I think, I found out about it by going to the gallery.
Yeah.
I think he really, when people go to the Southwest for the first time, go to Arizona. I encourage you to go to DeGrazia Gallery in the Sun, not just
Oh,
for the
yeah.
art and the architecture, because the adobe buildings and everything are incredible and the desert landscape. But he tells the story of the people of the Southwest, period. Like it's just completely different and it's a way to really capture it. Whereas, when you're in school and they, whack your knuckles if you're in a convent and make you learn like a time, the timeline, who cares? None of us really cared about that, but these are the stories and you feel a personal connection when you look at the art. So I really find that to me is one of the biggest things about going to the gallery. His art is fantastic, obviously, and he does, he's prolific and he does whatever he wanted. He made art out of anything. But I
Mhm.
think he really told the story, wouldn't you say, Lance, for people coming to the Southwest to kind of get that feel for it?
Yeah, he did. He did.
Yeah.
History was important to him too. He was as much a historian as he was an artist.
Mm. Now, the Way of the Cross, we have to bring this up so that Lance doesn't get in trouble. He always makes
No.
sure it's on display every year. But
Mhm.
this is important too because, the connectivity, he understood the religious aspect of the cultures of the Southwest. And when he built the gallery, he put the mission in, and he also he had a place for nuns, visiting nuns. He had a nunnery in the back, like literally, right?
Honorary.
And a nun's
Well, it was a
quarters.
house. It was a house called the Nun's House where he let them stay. They'd come
Isn't that
visit him and
nice?
they'd stay there.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Well,
So that,
DeGrazia was, he was an Italian Catholic.
Mhm.
He was a religious man who was kind of a non-church going guy. He built his own church, and but he was a believer. He was devout.
mm. And so he does that. And then the Way of the Cross. This is something that people go to the gallery specifically for every single year. So this will be on display January 31st through May 28th, 2025. And so, you know, this is 15 paintings, not 14 that people would think for the 14 stations, but there's 15.
Yes, yeah, he did the 15th station as the Resurrection.
Yeah. So, and there's an audio recording that you can listen to when you're there that accompanies the exhibit. So everyone, that is a popular thing there. A shout out to all the artists in the little gallery. So the little gallery on the property was where while he was building everything, that was his studio, right? The little gallery.
Correct.
And now,
Correct.
I want to give everyone a shout out that is there right now. As we air this, January 26th is a new exhibit opening up, with Robert Waters, who does oil on canvas and, Pitt pens on paper. He will be there until February 7th. Next up, February 9th through the 21st is Carolyn Ann Fish, who does a 12th century European ceramics technique. Wow. That's Nancy, 12th century.
Wow, that's really going back.
Yeah. February 23rd through March 7th is Patty Lyons, who does acrylic paint, recycled aluminum cans, and t-shirt fabric origami paper. Wow. You get some interesting, mediums here. I've never heard half of these yet, so we have to go. March 9th through 21st is Suzanne Vieira. She does paper and acrylic, and closing out the little gallery series for winter spring, March 23rd through 4th is Lynn Crichton, and she does bronze figures. He does bronze. But anyway, it's Lynn. Could be a man or a woman. I don't know them. But Lynn has bronze figures. So go check out Lynn's bronze figures. So check that out. So everyone, the best thing to do is to go to DeGrazia Gallery. Go to the gallery itself, but you can go to DeGrazia.org. Also follow them on Facebook and Instagram. They're on social media. They had their accounts taken away for a bit, as many people, how social media is, can be wonky, but everything is back. You guys are all back now, which is so cool, because I miss following, like, I'd see my DeGrazia picture of the day. I'd feel all good. Art inspiration when you're on social media. It's much better than all the other stuff you can find on there. So check that out.
Could you imagine if Ted DeGrazia could do social media?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that was a little before his time.
I know, but wouldn't it be funny? Because I'm sure
he had a lot to.
Yes, I think he had a lot to say.
You know what? I could see him and Lee Marvin with their Chivas Regal at the end of it, like, let's look at this and have a few comments. Like, he might do some interesting comments. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It would be probably one of those things where he'd go, okay, I'm not doing that. Or he'd utilize it. I just think because he was such a smart, he knew how to work it, man. I think he would use it for more sales, don't you? I do. I think he would use it.
Listen, he was a master of whatever he tried. So,
yeah,
it's something I'm sure he would have figured out pretty quickly.
But I think he would have been exactly himself, and he would have been exactly himself.
I think he would have used it to bring people into the gallery.
I do too. But I think he would still have a cocktail and get on there and say whatever he wanted and see what would happen. I do. But that's
that's what artists do.
That's what I wanted to do.
Reaction.
I would want to see what he'd say on social media. It would be interesting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I don't know. I think he would be, because he did so much storytelling, even in his books, that it would be fascinating, because I think he might even do like, hey, this is what's going on with the paintings. This is what I'm painting now. And then come by it.
I don't think he would mince words at all. And I think from a political standpoint, he might have a lot to say.
I don't know. I think he was a smart capitalist, Yeah.
There you go.
And I mean, he was.
He's smart.
But a kind capitalist who gave away tickets to kids for the movies. So there you go. So it's a good thing. But Lance Tucson, dude, it is always good hearing your voice and hearing what's going on at the gallery in the sun. It's a beautiful time of year in Tucson, so get out there. And I know you had some chilly weather. Did you get any snow at all?
Is that a joke? No.
Well, once in a
we didn't get any snow.
We did out here in Georgia twice.
It's not happening anymore.
Wow, it's beautiful out there.
It was 100 degrees through the whole month of November. So,
wow.
Global warming is here to stay.
Yeah. Well, it's always sunny in Tucson until the monsoons come. Always. Even those days are sunny too. So, Well, thanks so much, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Big Blend Radio's Tales of Southwest artist Ted DeGrazia. Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio's Tales of Ted DeGrazia show. This show airs every fourth Sunday. Learn more about DeGrazia Gallery in the Sun at DeGrazia.org. Follow the show at bigblendradio.com.